Let's talk about the Force Dyad.
Let's do that. Force Dyad. Oh, so Terrio does talk about this, and he does mention some Joseph Campbellian aspects to the idea of the Force Dyad, and I think it's pretty interesting stuff.
Right from episode 7, from the scene in which Rey is interrogated by Ren, it's clear that they have a connection, that they understand each other, that they can literally read each other's minds. They're made uncomfortable by it, and yet they're both drawn to each other. Of course, episode 8 furthered it by creating the idea of force connection, and I think what we wanted to do was complicate that and say, actually, their connection is deeper than that. We began talking about them as a mythic concept, which is in Joseph Campbell, which is the mythic dyad, that they're two parts of the same whole. And then finally, we began talking about how if the dyad ever came together, its power would be immeasurable.
Ooh, its power immeasurable. So this sent you on a journey looking at this whole Force Dyad.
Well, the thing that really interested me about seeing The Rise of Skywalker in the theater was that initial vision Rey has during the training sequence at the beginning of the film. She's training with this seeker droid, and she's trying to blast that, and Kylo Ren starts meditating by placing his hand on Vader's helmet with a very satisfying metallic ting that you hear in the sound mix too when he touches it. Very satisfying for some reason. I don't know why. I wish I could touch things and make that same sound. But so she starts connecting with Kylo then during this training sequence, and then you notice she starts struggling. She falls down, she wipes out, and she finally overcomes that and is able to destroy the seeker droid. But right at that moment when she destroys the seeker droid, maybe it's because she's tapping into anger or aggression or whatever, the bond becomes really strong between her and Kylo, which I think is what he was trying to do. And I think Kylo was trying to test the idea of the Force Dyad, because this is after he had met Palpatine, and Palpatine had insinuated that he was controlling everything. And so I think Kylo was giving it a little test. Well, if you can control everything, can you control my connection with Rey? I'm going to try this out. And so he does, has a connection with her, and then Rey slips into her vision, which Kylo apparently can also see happening. They share the same vision. But the first part of the vision is more about Rey. And so here you see, Jason, I gave you a slideshow, and you're putting it up on our screen so our Patreon audience could see it, and quite possibly this will go out on the YouTube as well. But here you see the first image that pops into Rey's head during this Force vision, and it happens so fast. I saw the movie 6 times in the theater, 5 times via IMAX, and I still couldn't quite make out everything that was happening in this Force vision, and I know a lot of other people couldn't either. So I decided to go through it and freeze frame it the best I can and snag some imagery so we can see really what was going on with Rey's head. It gets lost on me as a viewer just watching it with the naked eye. JJ wants to make Star Wars films more interactive, so you have to freeze frame them like a maniac at 2 a.m. like I was doing, sending emails to Swank. He wakes up at a normal time in the morning, shakes his head, he sees 5 emails in his inbox and says, what's the matter with this guy?
4:15?
4:15? He's probably still awake. Meanwhile, you're dropping the kids off at school. I'm foaming at the mouth in the basement watching, freeze framing The Rise of Skywalker, and been doing so for 5 hours straight.
Anybody seen Dad? I haven't seen him in 3 days.
Oh, man, I smell something, though. It doesn't smell good. Okay, so here's the first thing she sees in this rapid fire montage, and it is a look at the back of Palpatine's evil Sith throne on Exegol. So Rey is she's already getting a heads up that she's going to be heading toward this spot, this evil spot. And she hears her own voice as a child going, no, as she's looking at this thing. And so the next shot then, you'll see a figure in the shadows sitting on the throne. Who could it be? And you still hear young Rey's voice yelling, no. This all happened so fast.
A hooded, cloaked figure.
Could it be Palpatine? Or could it be actually Rey looking at herself on the throne? She doesn't know. She can't quite make it out. So the next vision she sees is a flashback, a force back to when she was abandoned on Jakku, the very famous shot from Episode 7 where she's yelling and screaming at the exiting
Quiet,
starship.
child.
Who I think now when Rey sees this, does she believe like there go her parents? Her parents are leaving on this ship, and so she sees it. So she's being abandoned. Yeah. And this little actress here was probably 5 years old when The Force Awakens was shot. She's now become a regular on The Walking Dead.
Oh, no kidding!
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So she plays the daughter of Rick Grimes, who. He's either dead or I think he's missing in action. They left his exit kind of ambiguous, probably in an attempt to bring him back sooner or later when the actor decides that he needs some more money. So she's yelling, "Get back, get back!" And then the next shot we see is also very familiar to us from The Force Awakens. It's Oshi of Bastoon's ship flying off into the atmosphere, leaving Jakku, while young Rey is yelling, "No!" So these are all very important things to see as the dominoes fall. I know as a film goer, you just say to yourself, oh, well, it's just random pictures thrown in together. Oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm here. Hello? Hello?
Hey, I guess I lost you.
No, I still hear you.
Oh, you heard me the whole time?
Yeah.
Well, I lost you. You probably didn't lose me, but I lost you. So you see the ship is flying off, and a lot of people think that, it's just kind of eye candy that this is happening, sort of to signify the connection between Rey and Kylo. So it's just a bunch of random imagery thrown together into a montage to emphasize their connection. But I think it's more than that. I think we're really looking at this vision, and I'm trying to interpret it the way Rey does. So the first thing she sees is the dark Sith throne, and then she sees the big events in her life that propelled her. I mean, there's your big earth shattering moment right there. I mean, what's more difficult? Being a young adult, learning your father is the most evil. He's the henchman to the most evil leader of the galaxy, but still alive and breathing. He's breathing because you can hear it. Or what's more terrifying, being a 5-year-old left in the desert with Unkar Plutt as your parents fly away.
Well, is that her parents or is that Ochi?
Well, I believe it is her parents, because I think Ochi does stab the dad on board the ship.
It's on board the ship that happens.
Yeah, I believe so. So that's pretty traumatic thing to have to go through.
That is.
And so Rey, this is shaping her, and kind of a source of a fear that she's lived with her whole life. And as we know, fear is the path to the dark side, and that path is greased for you when you are the granddaughter of the evil Emperor Palpatine. So there goes Oshi's ship.
There it is.
And then the next shot is, I believe it is Rey hugging her mother. So Rey's last moment with her mother, obviously a very traumatic experience for her as well, pushing her down the path of fear. But Rey is just now starting to learn the truth about her past and her parents and everything. And so this is just a little glimpse into that.
Will I ever see you again? What does your heart tell you? There's some other parallels you could draw.
Yes. So I think that's the end of Rey's part of the vision, if I remember correctly. I don't remember what the next slide is.
Yeah, then we've got Kylo.
It is Kylo. No, so Rey is still grappling with the darkness now. Okay, first she gets a hint of her lineage, her dark lineage. Then she gets a flashback to the most traumatic experience of her life, a moment of her life that propelled her down a pathway of fear, maybe a pathway of aggression and anger. Definitely stepping stones on your way to full immersion in the dark side of the Force. And now you have Kylo Ren offering himself holding his hand out. I think the next clip is actually him holding his hand out.
There
so we know this stuff.
Hey, it's Jimmy's glove.
There it is. There it is. How did he get it? How does he get all the memorabilia? He gets Vader's helmet. He gets the glove. He gets it all. Here, Jason, I'll do this for you because we were kind of spatting earlier. So I will do this for you as a way of saying I'm sorry. I hold out my glove.
Oh, there it is. Look at
Okay,
Look at the hand. The outstretched hand. I appreciate that.
That's about as legit an apology as you'll ever get from me. So.
All's fair in love and Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. But I still can't wait to hear what the listeners have to say about that. So he holds out the glove. And so now this is the temptation. This is the temptation. And so it indicates to me that this is a moment where Rey was legitimately tempted by Kylo and the dark side. Kylo represents the dark side. He's holding his hand out to her. And so she's flashing back to this moment saying, you know, I was kind of thinking about like, yeah, sure, I'll hold the guy's hand. So harmless, you know. But
we were just holding hands.
But no, Kylo wanted to get to third base right away as far as this dark side relationship goes. So it was more than just holding hands. So our next clip now, I think we're getting just a quick little look at someone in the shadows there.
Is this from Solo? I can't tell. It's so dark.
You can't tell, but let's turn on the lights, and who do we see? It's none other than Rey herself, dark side Rey.
That's who was sitting on the throne the whole time.
So she's following the path now.
What's going on with the eyes?
Well, that's the Palpatine eyes.
Right,
he's got the dead eyes.
He's got the dead eyes, but the Sith eyes were always red.
Right, but I mean, this doesn't have to necessarily represent the Sith as much as it does a connection to her grandfather.
Yeah.
You know, that's how the vision is communicating to us right now. So it begins with, here's how the dominoes fall. It begins with realization of the evil in the galaxy and her lineage, taking her back to the most traumatic moment of her childhood, bringing her to the moment where she was most tempted to join the dark side of the Force, into a look into the future as to what she would become should she have taken Kylo's hand. This is what she'd become, is living up to her legacy, essentially, is what this vision is telling Rey. And so it's freaking her out, and rightly so, because she learns that her destiny is a really hard thing to run from, and a lot of this foreshadowing comes into play later in the movie. But here we see Dark Rey sitting on the throne. A lot of people were talking about the documentary that came with that we were just talking about, playing highlights from the Skywalker Legacy documentary from The Rise of Skywalker. There is a shot of Abrams directing Daisy as she's sitting as Dark Rey in the wardrobe on the throne. And a lot of people were freeze framing that and posting online going, this should have been in the movie. Well, I got news for you, chuckleheads. It was in the movie. But you
got to freeze frame it.
We had it thrown at us so damn fast that we had to kind of pick up on it subliminally, almost like, you know, it was some kind of weird thing. But that's JJ's preferred method of filmmaking. He always does stuff like that. You know that. That's how he works the medium, and that's, you know, he's skilled at that. Frustratingly so, he is skilled at that. So there's Dark Rey. So confirmation to Rey. Much like the vision Luke got on the cave in Dagobah, realizing that if he used his anger, fear, and aggression to fight evil, he will become evil, just like his father did, and the mask of Darth Vader will essentially be placed on his head should he follow his dark side impulses. So Rey, considering all the things that happened to her, this is where she ends up, should she follow the dark path. And she now has a vision of it, which she tells Finn later in the film. I had a vision. I was sitting on the throne. You don't really see her sitting on the throne in the vision. It flashes by you so fast, you get a glimpse of the throne. And if you're familiar with it because you've seen publicity photos or trailers or whatever, you'll know what that is. But if you go into the movie cold, you have no idea. Say again?
I said, yeah, you're right. You have no idea. If you're part of the unanointed, we looked at every single possible spoilerific still. We slowed down trailers. We looked at every clip that we could to inform us going into the movie. But if you're going in without any of that stuff, you don't know what you just saw.
Yeah, like, 80%, 90% of the people who go to movies.
Right.
They don't pick it apart like we do here. So, next shot now, I believe we're going to start segueing into more Dark Rey.
Mm-hmm.
So she's, getting a glimpse of another, she basically gets a fuller vision of this later in the film at the Death Star ruins. But here she's getting her first case of fully realized dark side Rey. Like ready for action. This is super action dark side Rey. All right, now the dominoes start falling in a different direction. Okay, so we presented here with Kylo again touching Vader's helmet, and he's meditating. But now the rest of the images we're going to see are part of Kylo's vision. Okay, they're sharing the vision, yes, but the Force is communicating to Rey at first, with Kylo there as a witness, and now the Force is going to turn around and say, "It's your turn, Kylo," and then Rey will be a witness to all of this because they have that connection, and that explains how Kylo knows so much about Rey. How does Kylo know about her parents? How does he know this? How does he know that? It's because of this connection. He gets the same visions. So, but the visions might not always be speaking to him for 100% of the vision itself. This vision starts with Rey and then halfway through turns a corner and focuses on Kylo. And so what are we going to see? The first thing that Kylo sees is exactly what was foreshadowed at the end of episode 8.
That
Luke
guy
says, "I'll always be with you, kid." Or he says something like that, right?
Yeah.
When he gives him the sign off there at the end. So we're dealing with Luke Skywalker back 100% at the end of The Last Jedi. In my own headcanon, I can accept the missteps made with the Luke Skywalker character as we see him on Octu in isolation. I accept it because Luke has cut himself off from the Force. And the thing that made Luke Skywalker such a great and compelling and amazing character, the source of his optimism and his internal strength and power was his connection to the Force. You remove that from Luke Skywalker, you've taken away a huge element of what makes that character who he was. So we're dealing with an impotent Luke Skywalker throughout most of The Last Jedi. However, at the end, he comes back because he opens himself up to the Force. And he Force teleports himself to the Battle of Crate, confronts Kylo Ren, freaks him out, and then right before he disappears, he says, "See you around, kid." I think that's what he says.
Yeah. See you
you
around,
recall?
kid.
See you around, kid.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of, and he gave him a little salute. Kind of,
He's channeling
Han.
Han. Yeah, I
he's
think
channeling
very much so.
Han.
Yes.
And this is really interesting because a lot of people say, "Oh, everything that happened in episode 8 was thrown away by JJ." I'll dispute that. And I mean, you can pick apart this little Force vision and find profound ways in which the character of Rey was motivated throughout the rest of the film based on this rapid fire collection of imagery. So she sees, Kylo, this is now Kylo. Kylo sees Luke, and so Luke is now coming in to mess with him. Is there a caption on that?
It
photo?
just says, Ben, no! From Luke.
Ben, no. Right. And so now he's stepping in because he sees from the beyond, as a Force spirit, Luke Skywalker sees Kylo messing with Rey. And Rey is Luke's student, and he's not going to let that continue. So he steps in as the Force Dyad is making their connection, and Luke now is going to flip the coin around and make it land on the other side for Kylo, and he's going to start messing with Kylo. So how does Luke do that? Next slide. Yeah, he brings back Kylo's biggest failure as a human being, the confrontation with Han Solo on the catwalk at the Starkiller base during The Force Awakens. And he makes Kylo relive this moment. And this is a moment that Kylo has been fighting with for a long time, because Kylo thought by killing his father it would open himself up fully to the dark side, but that has not been possible. And it's because of his connection to Rey via the Dyad, where Rey represents the light side of the Force. That connection is almost holding Kylo back. Kylo wants it. He wants it bad, but and it's his nature as a Skywalker, as legitimate Skywalker blood, as the son of Leia Organa Skywalker Solo. He is filled with the light, and he can't suppress it. And with Rey around, it makes it impossible for him to become something he's not. So he fails. He just fails left and right. So Luke brings Han and proves to Kylo that he has to live with the sin of killing his father. So he shows him, and then you hear Luke's voice going, "You killed him." Right? Mm-hmm. So then, boom, you get the saber through the gut. Another shot from The Force Awakens. And so that's the sin of killing his father. But there's one more thing Luke throws at Kylo before the vision gets the plug pulled on it. And it's this next shot of the father forgiving the son. Last shot. It's of Han Solo holding his hand up to Kylo's cheek. And right before Kylo pulls the ultimate sin of killing his father. Jason, maybe I didn't give you that. It didn't make the. It didn't make it. But that was the last thing Kylo sees then. Yeah. And then that scene gets repeated to to Kylo once again. In the film, after Rey saves him, fills him with the light side of the Force by doing so, leaving Kylo Ren as a dark side agent at his most vulnerable. That's how Leia was able to connect with him, and I believe with guidance, and support from the spirit of Luke as well, because Luke has proven himself to be a presence in Kylo's connection to the Force, and Luke's mission is to never let Kylo forget. So you see, Luke Skywalker himself intervenes into you pulled up a GIF.
Yeah, I got a little GIF here of Solo Men.
Yeah, it's a Solo Men on it, and it's just Han rubbing the face over and over again on a loop, rubbing Adam Driver's face. I keep expecting his thumb to slip and go up a nostril, but that's not happening.
I think these are the outtakes. How many times he had to do it? But yes, it was a poignant moment between father and son as he sort of gave him the symbol of forgiveness, is really what it was. Even as the blade was still in his belly, he was forgiving his son.
So Kylo pulls his hand off the helmet at that point and breaks the connection via the Force Dyad with Rey. And I think he's thinking, well, I didn't expect it to go that way, really. And it's an experience that I think Kylo has been living with a few times. According to maybe some earlier drafts of this film, Luke Skywalker did have more of a presence haunting Kylo Ren. And I think we're seeing some residuals of those concepts as presented in the script, and I think that's something that we can accept as canon, as fans, that Luke Skywalker definitely did have a presence as a Force spirit on Kylo Ren as he was struggling with his connection to the dark side of the Force, and Luke was pushing him into a certain direction. Again, I know you guys listening to this are young people, well, they should have put it in the movie, but it's all a big story anyway, and maybe it's a patchwork quilt of many different mediums and things of that nature. I know that the novelizations have, for the most part, always expanded my appreciation of the films and the stories being told within those films on a whole. Same thing with the comic adaptations. Same thing with the radio dramas. These are all little bonuses, little vitamins that you place into the story to give it a little more clarity. But does it really change the story? Not so much. I mean, we're discovering answers to these big mysteries and realizing that some of this stuff was just right there in front of our face the whole time in this film. But we didn't have the ability to freeze frame and rewind and stay up till 4:30 in the morning sending Swank crazy emails. And pictures.
Well, that was cool.
Screenshots.
I can't wait to go back and watch the movie with all of that in mind. That was really good stuff.
No, thank you.
Very well done, Professor
Thank
Mack.